brought to us by Discovery Parts. They're there for all your safety gear needs, all the time, every day, on your website. Go and check it out. They're there. Hey, and sometimes at the tracks, they're going to be there with their trailer. So go in and check out what they got going on. They always have some great deals, some great specials, especially at the end of the year. Today we're here to talk about brake lockup. And I see this a lot of times, especially when people get in traffic, and I just want to give you some tips to think about so you don't get brake lockup, because there's some really bad things that happen with brake lockup. Number one is if you lock up, there's a good chance you're either going to slide into some car in front of you or slide off the track, right? Or the car's going to catch and go into the wall. Another thing that can happen if none of that occurs is you're going to actually flat spot a tire. Now you have to deal with not only your whole rest of your session with a flat spotted tire, but now you're going to have to replace the tire, which is going to cost you money. So let's talk about some tips to work through this. So if you're in the high levels of pro racing and you're on slick tires and some high-end brakes and maybe even carbon fiber rotors, you get into what they call threshold braking. You have to brake at the very last moment and put like 1,000 foot-pounds of torque into the brake pedal. Well, guess what? In 200 wear rating tires that we all race on here in endurance racing, that's not the case. What you actually run into is you're much, much better off, instead of trying to go to the last possible place on the brake zone, especially if you find yourself locking up quite often, move your brake zone back 15 feet, 20 feet. You're going to be amazed how much of a difference that makes. Because what you want to be able to do is, as you get into the brakes, is not hit them super hard with these 200 wear rating tires, but to ease into it and then roll out of it. And if you're slamming them on, you're now into a situation where there's no way to modulate that brake pedal, okay? So what you want to be able to do is just move your brake points back and slowly work into it, and then build the pressure up, and then you have the ability, if it feels like it's locking up, to pull back out of it. Because you're not going to gain as much time threshold braking as you are releasing those brakes and carrying momentum through the turns. Again, almost all of us, unless we're racing some big Corvette or Mustang, almost all of us in Porsches and Hondas and in Miatas and BMWs, we're all doing momentum racing. So again, work harder at braking just a little bit earlier, getting out of the brakes earlier, and rolling speed through the turn. Not only will that be faster, but you're not going to be locking up the brakes. But if you do get into that situation where you do lock up the brakes, you have to be able to pull out of it. If you just keep that pedal pressure solid when it's locking up, it's not going to get any better. So you have to roll out of it and then roll back into it. But you've got to release that lockup. So again, that's my tips for you to how to avoid it, but also my tip for if you get into it, you'd better get that steering wheel back straight if it starts to lock up and roll out of the brakes. But if you keep that steering wheel turned and keep that pedal pressure on, all you're asking for is more and more trouble.